Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and welcome to part 2, 1973 Schwinn World Voyageur, Cool Orange. Today we're going to take her apart, we're going to restore the frame, take a closer look at all the parts, order what we need, and get ready for the build. Thanks for watching, guys. I was really considering keeping this tape, but I'm not really sure that it's original. I was looking a little closer at it, and one thing I'm really particular about is that these second position levers hang the same. See how they're not hanging properly, which means that this one is sitting higher than that one. So I think one of the previous owners probably put new tape on it, but the main thing too is these splits right there. You can tell they didn't really wrap it properly. They left a little bit too much of a gap there, and over time it slid open. So I'm going to see if I can do a better job of wrapping this. And then there's that split right there, so that's only going to get worse and going to unravel at some point. So I'm going to go ahead and change all the cables out. The outer cables look perfect though. I will leave those alone. And also, you saw this in one of my videos where I changed out these bolts on one of the brakes. See this one right there? It's missing the chrome. Luckily I have extra ones, so I'll be able to replace those. So I'm going to go ahead and rebuild these brakes as well. She's done in the frame. So this is the best way to go ahead and get her cleaned up, rebuild her, make sure everything's right on it. I will be taking this off next. I took off the fork, and you take a look at the way that those, this has the loose bearings versus the bearing cages, but I'm going to replace all these. They look to be pretty worn. The grease on them is pretty dry on it, and even though it was turning not too bad, you can tell that this thing is just caked with old grease. So that's why it's always good to take them apart and re-grease everything. And again, there's a closer look at that bolt right there. And I can go through and actually assess the condition of the frame better without any cables on it. Again, I'm going to try to do minimal touch-ups, try to keep it as original as possible, but I definitely want to touch these up to make that seat stay look better. Try to protect that frame as much as possible. And then under the bottom bracket is going to need some touch-up as well. But overall, the frame, there's no dents, no dings, and it appears to be pretty straight as well. So everything looks good. Again, here's the handlebars. You can see how these things are not properly hanging. And also, if you notice, the tape is not even from one side to the other, so I really can't imagine this being done at the factory or at the dealer. So cables look really good, so I'll be able to keep those. Now this fork here, I'll be able to take that rust off of there. When I was taking the headset off, it was sticking pretty good, so I had to use some WD-40 to make it turn better. But I'll get all that rust off of there before I put it back together. So touch up the paint in all the places that you see chrome. See how it turns out. Then I'm going to go ahead and dip the fork threading into some evaporust, and then if it doesn't come clean, I'll go ahead and use the rust dissolver jelly, which works great, but I thought I'd try that first. Should take it out pretty good. And there's the fork. Left it overnight in the evaporust, and it took out all that grime and rust just fine. The headset done as well, and clean this up too as well. So we're going to go ahead and remove the crank set today. That's a cable burn right there. I think I can get that off with a little bit of wax. These little stripes seem to be taped together there at the seams, and they don't look very good. In fact, this one had rolled up on it, so I just took that one off. And then these over here, not looking very good. Good thing is, I was able to find replacements with VeloCal. So they come in sets of 8 basically. And I had used these on my Paramount, and they came out really nice. And the problem was they overlapped them, so they were actually too long. Because the trick is, when you put these on, they got to be exactly the same diameter so they meet. and lay perfectly. So when they put these on, they overlapped, so they had double tape on about a third of it, which really gave it a real messy look. These must have been replaced at some point because these things are pretty fragile, these little decals. And I've seen some guys that just take them off completely because they don't look bad without them. Alright, so we'll go ahead and remove the crankset. Seems to have a dead spot right there, like it snags right there. So we'll go ahead and remove it. And this is basically just to loosen counterclockwise, and that should do it. And you can just put this in here like this and take it out the rest of the way. Alright, we'll go ahead and pull the crank. This crank puller here is pretty cool. You just thread it in. So I went ahead and put a little bit of grease in here to make sure it goes in smoothly. And make sure you don't cross thread this. So just put it in until it hits bottom. That should do it. And then you can go ahead and start cranking this one out. Use a bigger tool. That gave you some momentum there. And there you go. Should be out now. Alright, well she's out. So we'll go ahead and take this off, clean this up, polish it up, and then get this out of here and do the bearings. Then we'll go ahead and do the same thing to the other side. The dust cap was in there pretty tight. So again, this is a 14 millimeter on here. Just put that in there. Alright, come right out. We'll do the same thing. Thread this back. And that does that one too. So. So that's the, alright, so just clean it off a little bit now. And you know, when you turn it by hand, you can definitely tell how bad the bearings are because they don't turn at all. So, and then this right here, just take my spanner tool. And again, these aren't very tight, so you can actually just take this right out of there. There's the bearings. Look pretty packed with dry grease. I don't know anything they're turning in there. Comes right out. So we'll put that in a little bit of the solver and get that grease off of there. We're going to go ahead and remove the fixed cup. And these come off clockwise. And they're usually pretty tight, so hopefully this will come out with a couple of taps. Oh yeah, that was awesome. Okay. That wasn't too tight at all. You can go ahead and just turn it. Alright, well the crankset's out of there. I think I noticed this one did not have a little dust cover. They have like a little cup that goes in there. And this one did not have one, so ready to clean her up, get that frame cleaned. I like using a little toothbrush in here to get this dirt in there. Alright, much better. And then in the meantime, we'll go ahead and let these soak for a few minutes or hours, and then we'll come back and scrub all that stuff off. I'll go ahead and remove these fingertip shifters. You can see that wrap there only went once through the back, and that usually crisscrosses for a secure wrap. See how these were taped out. So just unraveling this, and I see that they used some Scotch tape to hold it down initially, and they probably have another one on this side over here. Pull the tape off. That tape was very brittle, and I'm thinking about soaking it in some warm water. Maybe it'll soften up, but I don't think it'll be able to get stretched back on there. It'll probably just snap, especially the one place that was hard. This is the tape that I found, and it's pretty darn close You notice it's got the exact same texture as the other one. And probably the difference is just that one is over 40 years old. So this will look great on the bike. I'll go ahead and polish it out, get these levers looking super clean, and get that 12 stem really shining. I might have to get some new hardware. Some of this stuff here, it's pretty rusted. And I think I have some from my last project, my Sprint. The bolts look better than that. And on my Sprint project, I showed how these little springs pop out. It looks like these did at one point because they didn't have any springs in there. So, but we'll go ahead and get this cleaned up. Looks like that lever is bent. So it looks like it took a hit right there. And it bent the lever that way. Even though I think I can probably straighten that. See right there. I'll play with it. If I can find another set like I did before, I'll just replace them. These a little beat up anyway, even though I can make those look better. But we'll see. That's going to polish nicely. I'm going to remove these stickers as well. As you can see, this thing's pretty much just peeling right off of here. So, and they come right off. So we'll go ahead and take that out. Alright, so I took off all the pinstripes. It actually looks pretty good without it, but I definitely will add those on. Here's the damage that the kickstand does. So it looks like the previous owner took off the kickstand. Yeah, the frame should clean up well. Again, I'm going to go through and see if I can touch up all these little blemishes. There's quite a few of them. I went ahead and put a little bit of rust remover on some of these spots where you can tell the rust started to occur on the frame. And that's the reason why I try to get these little chips covered up. And there's another one down here too that I went ahead and sanded down a little bit first and put some of that rust remover gel on it. And I'll go back through and clean it up, put a little primer on it, and then do some touch up on it, so that way we'll be able to protect that frame from getting any rust. This is the coolstuff.com. Again, they specialize in Stingray colors, and a lot of these were the same colors I put on road bikes, including the cool orange and the campus green. And this is a touch-up size bottle, so these aren't too expensive. They're about 24 bucks, free shipping, and that should be enough to touch up the bike. As you can see, I went through and took off all the scuffs off the bike. From right there, there was a cable burn right there, so that's gone. And I just used my chrome polish to remove all the scuffs. So now the frame is really pretty clean, except for all the dings, which we'll see how that touch-up paint does. And again, I'm going to touch it up selectively to make sure only the dings that make the bike look bad are the ones we touch up. So let's go ahead and start at the bottom so we can practice on some hidden parts like down here. So we'll do the bottom bracket area. So let's see how it goes. Alright, so here's a closer look at the cool orange. Factory exact color match. Let's check it out, see how it looks. So that's pretty close. Again, I've used this paint before on my Cool Lemon. I used a spray can, and I painted the entire frame except for the head tube, and the color was exact. So I'm pretty confident this color is going to be spot on. And again, this is $23.95, including shipping for this little bottle. So we'll see how it applies. The other stuff, the spray, you're supposed to actually do the whole primer and base coat, which is the gray ghost color, that silver mist. But this one, I think you can just do the touch up. So I'm going to go ahead and read the instructions, shake it up, and start touching up. trying a few areas on the bottom of the bike. I wasn't really happy how this was going on. The color is perfectly matched, however it goes on a little thick and it goes on glossy, so you don't have to do anything to it after you're done. However, when it goes over the edges of the chip, it gets a darker circle, so I wasn't happy with that at all. So, because there was so many on the bike, there was no way I could do the whole bike like that and make it look decent. So I decided to go ahead and move forward with just doing a spray over on some of those parts, and I went ahead and got the spray version of that color. Now this one does require the clear coat over it. The decals I wanted to save, and I tried taping around it, but they were really pretty worn in some places. You know, like the Y was missing a big chunk of its letter, and there were scratches around the paint, so I just had to make a decision to go ahead and do a complete restoration and go ahead and redo the frame. I think she's going to turn out very nice. So I went ahead and took the areas and smoothed them out, and then did a primer on it. I think it's going to work out. So I had to create a little paint tent to make sure I didn't spray over all my other equipment and bikes around here. So let me show you real quick. So this I got on Amazon for about $49. It's like a pop-up tent. It went up pretty quickly. It's 8 by 6 by 5.5, and I put some additional cover around it so I could actually create a walk-in area. So that fan will draw most of the air out, or most of the fumes, and I do have a nice mask, but this is how I set it up in here. So again, I got a fan, some lights to be able to see everything in there. Pretty roomy. Again, it's 6 by 8 and it's about 5.5 feet tall, but here it is. So I found a primer that was pretty close to the color of the bike to begin with. I went ahead and covered the entire bike and got all the areas that were really bad, like you remember the bottom right here. So all those scrapes are gone. I got every chip. There was just countless ones of them, but this whole tube was really pretty wasted, including the top tube. Right now I just sanded it down with that very smooth steel wool and 1000 grade sandpaper. So anyway, that's the primer. I'm going to go ahead and do a couple of coats of the exact color match on it. So I think the paint will go on next. It'll come out looking very much like factory. And I went ahead and got a new set of decals that are repair correct and make the bike look really fresh. So alright, let's go ahead and spray it out. So got the first cool orange coat on it. Again, this goes on in a flat finish, and then a clear coat is required to get that shine. But it went on pretty smooth. And then I do have another can that I'm going to give a second coat just in case I missed anything. Go over it again, make sure there's no light areas. So I gave it a second coat, and it takes about 2 cans to do the entire bike. And then that's your clear. You'll probably need at least 2 to 3 cans of the clear to make sure you have a good finish. Here is the sandpaper I use, which is a wet or dry 1000 grade. And then I also have a 2000 one that's almost like this paper. And then I'll do that one on the clear, do the final finish on it. This is a steel wool here, very fine, and it works out great. And these are really nice, these tack cloths. They just basically pick up any dust. And I also use my blower on it to wipe off anything before I put the next coat. We'll go ahead and see what it looks like. But here's the bike after the second coat. Again, it doesn't really change the color any, but I feel really good about the consistency of the finish on it now. And again, it is that cool orange. It's very bright. It's going to take on a real glossy finish, just like the original. So again, all the scratches were sanded down to a smooth finish, so when it goes on, it looks like they were never there. Especially that big chip right there at the head tube. And and there were several down here. These were pretty bad. These seat stays were, I'm not sure how they get so chipped, probably for maybe carrying a lock and a chain or something. So we'll go ahead and let it sit overnight. I did like using this tent. It kept the paint very contained in here, but it was a little tight quarters to move around comfortably. So when I do the clear coat, I want to hang it from the ceiling and put a clear plastic around it, create like a bigger area, so I can have more room to move freely and move the bike around so I don't have anything blocking my way. So painting the bike definitely put a delay on the restoration project. So I'm going to have to extend this into 3 parts. I have to make sure that I wait. I was reading the decals instructions, and you're supposed to let at least 2 weeks pass where you put on anything on them, because the paint will still cure. Here's a better look at the tent without the cover in front of it. So I went ahead and pulled that down. I'm going to go ahead and take this whole thing down and set up the spraying area for the clear. This tent really came in handy. I'm pretty happy with having it. We're going to go ahead and set up that painting area and hang it by the ceiling and hit those clear shots. So we'll do that first thing in the morning, and should be done over the weekend, and then we'll let it sit and cure, and then we'll put the decals on it. And while that's happening, I'm going to be getting all the chrome polished and prepped for the build for part 3. So again, this comes with this screen mesh that rolls over, and then you can just pull it down. It's got little Velcro grips on it, and it's actually a nice little area. This is ever meant to be indoor or outdoor, and you can take it outside and keep the bugs off your fresh paint with that screen. It's pretty cool, really. $49.99 Amazon. I wish it were a little bit taller. That definitely would have helped. If that would have been like 6.5, 7 foot, it would have been perfect for just about anything. The 5.5 foot was a little bit limiting as far as getting in there and really making that bike be able to move around. So, but it worked. All right, so I think this will work. I went ahead and set up the framing. I ran this vinyl coated construction wire in a loop, as you can see through here, and this whole area is pretty good size where I'm going to be standing right in between all my lights too. Right there is going to hang from this thing will hold up the bike. The bike's not very heavy, that frame, so that's where I hung my Paramount when I painted it, and it worked out perfect. So I'll have the curtain area, and then I'll have the door open about 1/4 of the way, just enough to let that fan suck the air out of here. So we'll go ahead and put up the plastic, and there's the space I created. It's going to work out really nice. Got plenty of room in there, and right now I just put the bike in there with the stand to sand it. This is it through here. Got a couple of different openings, but here's the space, and even got a ceiling as well, so that way no doesn't climb through there. Got a couple of lights, give me some lighting on the side here, and went ahead and just sanded this down. You can see how smooth that is. So that's definitely ready for the clear. It's going to come out nice. So I'm going to take it off the stand and put it on this, looks like a meat hook, but it's actually a painter's hook, and I just put a different attachment to it, and then it's going to go right through there to the chain. Set up a fan in here too, because it gets hot in here. It's about 85 in here right now, and it's kind of not a really hot night here in Florida. Space I think is going to work out great. I'm going to have plenty of room to move around. Tomorrow I'll put the new floor on it. This is the one I used to paint the bike, so I wanted to use it while I sanded it. But tomorrow I'm going to go ahead and put a different sheet on here that's actually bigger, covers the entire floor. Now when I start painting, this is actually a split right here. So I'm going to open the door. Probably going to move this over like this to the side, because the fan will suck up that sheet. It's ready for the bike. So I went ahead and put the new floor down. I went ahead and added another fluorescent light up here, LED, and it's going to make a big difference on the lighting that I'm getting. It's at least 8 by 9 in here, and plenty of height. I'll go ahead and pull this chain down, and I'll bring the bike out here in a second, and put her up, and there she is. Looks like that's going to be a really good way for me to paint this thing, or to give it that clear. That way I can move it around. I can raise it or lower it and get every part I need. So that should work out pretty good. Like I said earlier, this extra light is going to definitely give me the light that I was missing, but now I have a direct shot. And that was only like a $24 light. Hung it up real quick, and I'll be able to use it going forward as well. First coat is done, and it went on nicely. So now we just gotta wait, and we'll give it a second coat, and then we'll go through and do the wet sand, do a rubbing compound, and then the polishing compound, and that should give it a super high gloss, and it should look just like factory. So far so good. There's not a lot of orange peel on it, so I'm going to use a 2000 grade really fine sandpaper, and then do the polishing on it. Then we'll have to wait a couple of weeks before we can put the decals on it. During that time, I'll go ahead and be doing all of the chrome polishing and waiting for all the parts to come in. So part 3 should be the final completion of the project. I'm looking forward to it, and I really thank you guys for watching. I hope this video is helpful for you guys if you guys are considering redoing your bike, painting, or just restoring it. So stay tuned for part 3, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.